It's time for the Las Vegas Sportsline. Brought to you by the Westgate Las Vegas, home of the world's largest race and sportsbook and the Super Contest.
Money won is twice as sweet as money earned.
Presented by WagerTalk.com.
And here we go. It is the Tuesday edition of the Las Vegas Sportsline. Big night. Game 7 between the Golden Knights and the Sharks. NHL playoffs have been amazing. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about that game today, previewing it, getting you the betting information on the game. Jeff Sherman from Superbook USA at the Westgate and other locations around the world as well will be joining us to lend his expertise on a variety of topics today. Marco DAngelo is here. I'm Dave Cokin. All right, Platinum is our producer, and we're glad to have you with us on what should be a fun show. So, we won't give away the house yet on this game. We're going to talk about it in depth throughout the show and get you a pick on it later on in our WagerTalk Marquee matchup. This is going to be exciting. I mean, Game 7s are something special, and I'm trying to gauge what the perspective is of the local fan base, and I think it's mixed. I think there's a lot of apprehension going in because, hey, this was 3-1, and now it's 3-3, and they had 59 shots on goal last game, and Martin Jones stopped everything. They're worried, and it's a tough barn, too. So, I can see why it's not rampant optimism.
Oh, absolutely, Dave. But also, this is a new uncharted water for both the Golden Knights of Game 7 and for the fan base here. We know that this is such a city where people come from everywhere, so they have fan bases of other teams. But this is our homegrown team, and we have never experienced this with this franchise. So for people that have just embraced sports since we got the Golden Knights, my wife is one of them. She doesn't like sports at all, but, man, she has bought in, 110% on the Knights. She's walking around today like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. Let me tell you, she's nervous.
Yeah, I'm nervous. I'm a fan tonight. I'm not betting the game, so I am in fan mode tonight, and this is a scary one. And boy, these NHL playoffs are absolutely amazing. We've got another Game 7 tonight, the Bruins and the Leafs. We've got a Game 7 tomorrow between Carolina and Washington. Carolina with a comfortable victory last night, caught a break with the score 2-2, and it looked like the Capitals had a game-leading goal to make it 3-2. They got wiped out by the officials. Honestly, I don't know. I guess the call on the ice has to stand. But had it been called a good goal, I think that would have stood as well. So it was bad luck for the Capitals. And the Hurricanes took full advantage. And, boy, I'm telling you what, talk about home ice advantage. They had plenty of it in this series. In fact, the home ice has been deadly in this series, 6-0, going to Game 7 tomorrow night.
Absolutely. And, Dave, the other part about hockey, what makes it so exciting is you think about football. A team falls behind by 10 points. You can make that up, and you can do it in the final 5 minutes of a game.
Sure.
You get a score, you get an onside kick, and you're back in business. Basketball, you start raining a couple threes, miss a few foul shots on the other end, and the team's back in it.
You saw the Clippers. I mean, it was an extreme example, but they're down 31 and came back and won a basketball game. You can't come back from a 6-0 deficit in the NHL.
No, and one goal is huge.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're down into the third period and you're in a 1-1 game and and that next goal is most likely going to be the winner, you're on pins and needles the entire game, and that's what makes hockey so exciting, and I think that's why the fans are embracing it so much.
The St. Louis Blues will be taking on the Dallas Stars in the second round. That is the only second-round series that is now set. St. Louis, of course, dispatching Winnipeg in 6 games. And the Dallas Stars come through in 6 games and get the win over the Nashville Predators, and it's as simple as this. I mean, look, you can break down the game in a variety of ways, but what it really comes down to is the fact that Nashville was the worst power play in the NHL during the regular season and then went 0 for 15 in this series with Dallas, including last night, where they had 4 power plays as opposed to only 1 for Dallas, scored on 0 of them, and that, to me, was the difference in this series.
Oh, absolutely. Dave, you know how hard it is to go 0 for 15 in a series? And let's give Dallas credit for their win. And St. Louis, how about the rookie, though?
Binnington has been amazing.
We talked about it. We didn't know how he would handle the pressure. Now getting through a series. This is going to be fun moving forward, and the West is wide open. I can make a case for any of the teams left in the West, see what happens. And now that Tampa Bay is out on the East, you can do almost the same in the East.
And on the diamond, a barking dog last night. We got to talk about this team for a minute because, and I'm kind of, yeah, I can't. I'll say that I can pat myself on the back for one thing, but then kick myself on the ass for another. Because I said before the season started, I think the Twins have a really good chance to win the AL Central. Have I been betting them on a regular basis? No. So there's the two sides of it. They come through again last night as an underdog against the Astros. They're an undervalued team right now.
They are. The Astros were coming off a road trip. They played their in-state rival, Texas, and it was a spot, situationally, it was a good spot for Minnesota, but they got the job done. And if you remember, though, Dave, it was just a week or so ago that Minnesota was in a slump, and they were playing at home. And I actually had a conversation with Brian Leonard because I looked to take Minnesota on the podcast we did the first game out on the road trip, and I said, the best thing that can happen to a team that's struggling is to get away from home. Go on the road. You don't have to listen to the local guys on talk show radios like us saying what's wrong and everything else. Just get out there and play baseball, and boy, did they turn it around. It helped that they went to play Baltimore, though, for that first series.
You take advantage of that and gain some momentum. And by the way, who would have called this? I mean, I know it's only a few weeks into the season, but Jorge Polanco leading the American League in slugging percentage right now. He has been tremendous for this baseball team. Let's take a look at some of tonight's action now as we go to the Tuesday. MJ Christensen 4-4.
1, 2, 3 into the 4.
Put them fours up. Put the fours up, I said. Do it right now.
Tonight's action is just around the bend, and the guys want to get your night off to a great start.
4.
It's the Las Vegas Sportsline's 4 at 4.
Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4. Unbelievable.
And a reminder that even though the actual anniversary has passed, it is a month-long celebration of the 80th anniversary at MJ Christensen Diamonds at Boca Park, which means massive savings throughout the store on a variety of items: watches, rings, bracelets, brooches, whatever. Go down there, and Cliff Miller's going to tell you he's not going to get beat at any prices for diamonds. So take advantage of what's available right now as the 80th anniversary specials continue all month long at MJ Christensen. Maple Leafs and Bruins Game 7. A very difficult series to handicap because there's just not a lot to separate the two teams. Home ice hasn't meant a great deal in this series. It's been very much a zigzag series. So does it zigzag again? Because if it does, the Maple Leafs get the mild upset on the road at Boston. I don't know. I made the Bruins a small favorite in the game, but right around the price that actually showed. So I could not come up with a play. I think the Bruins win. I lean that way, but it's not a bet for me, and I'm not going to be surprised that Toronto pulls it off.
Yeah, I lean to Boston, too, but I don't like this line, Dave. I think it's a little bit high. And, Dave, when you talk about sequels and movies, the sequel's never as good as the original. Well, this is a sequel from last year. These two played a Game 7 series last year, and Boston got the job done. Does Toronto turn the tables? They can't find the back of the net right now.
No, I know.
This is a team that 7 of their last 11 games, Dave, 2 goals or less. You're not going to win in the NHL like that, especially playoff time. I lean to Boston. Maybe you look at the under in this one. If you lean to Toronto, you're definitely looking for it to be a low-scoring game. But I lean to Boston in it, but I can't lay. I'm seeing some $140s around town. It's just a little bit too rich for me.
I have been somewhat critical of Luke Weaver, who pitches now for the Arizona Diamondbacks, because he's one of those guys that he's got the stuff to be a really good pitcher, but he's had trouble avoiding big innings, gives up more hard contact than he should, and it just hasn't come together for him. But the last 2 starts, it has. Boy, he has been dominating in his last 2 starts for the Diamondbacks. He'll be on the road tonight against the Pirates and the overachieving Trevor Williams, who just keeps overachieving. So maybe he's not overachieving. Maybe he's just one of those guys who is going to be better than his analytics. The Pirates have won all 4 of his starts this year. But I'm looking at the Diamondbacks side here because I think Luke Weaver, maybe it's a tease. I don't know, Marco. But Luke Weaver's kind of a go-with guy right now. The Diamondbacks have a better offense. And surprisingly, the Diamondbacks actually have the better bullpen right now because the Pittsburgh bullpen is just not getting the job done. I know this has been a good start for the Pirates, a surprise in some people's minds, but the bad surprise has been how bad the bullpen's been.
Absolutely, Dave. And you talk about Luke Weaver and how good he's been in the last 2 starts. Well, you said good. He's been razor sharp. 2 runs in the last 2 starts, but a 17-1 strikeout-to-walk ratio. When you're dealing it like that, you've got everything working. You've got control with your pitches, and that makes it very tough. I look at Trevor Williams, and yes, this is the metrics guy's nightmare pitcher. There's another one pitching tonight, too, that is in that same category. But I like Arizona on this one. Here's a fluky stat for you, Dave. And I know people don't make big deals out of days of the week, but I do look at the early days of the week, the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, when it's the lesser teams. Arizona's been a mediocre team from the start of last season. Would you believe right now they're on a run on Tuesdays of 22-6?
Really?
Yes.
I hope it's 23-6 because we both like the Diamondbacks here.
We do. I'm on Arizona, buddy.
Phillies and Mets. So we'll talk about this one for a moment because Bryce Harper has to stop getting thrown out of games. I was actually amazed by this last night. He got thrown out of the game for barking from the dugout about a call about some balls and strike calls. We'll just call it that way. He was upset with a pitch on the field, and I guess he continued to harass the umpire and eventually got tossed. He was the first Phillies player to be thrown out of a game in 4 years. But Bryce Harper has now been thrown out by himself 12 times in his major league career. And he was criticized after the game by Jake Arrieta, who's never been shy about voicing his opinion. And Arrieta said, look, you can't get thrown out of games. Team's short-handed right now. You're our main guy. You got to just swallow it and not put yourself in a position to get ejected from the game. We'll see what happens tonight. Phillies ended up losing last night. The Mets, Steven Matz with his first home win in like forever. Mm-hmm. And he got some nice revenge after facing 8 batters last week against the Phillies and getting 0 out. 6 strong innings from Matz last night. Bullpen did its job. The Mets, by the way, are unbeaten when they lead after 6 innings. So as much criticism as their bullpen's gotten, when they have a lead, the bullpen protects it. I think they're 10-0 now when leading after the 6th inning. Tonight, interesting matchup here. As Zach Wheeler is on the mound for the Mets, he could be one of those guys you look at and compare, in a sense, to Luke Weaver. Ton of potential there, but it still hasn't really come together for Wheeler, and he'll be on the mound against Zach Eflin, a hard throw for the Phillies. I think the Phillies bounce back here. I didn't play this game, but I would look at that as the side, and I think you're going to get some motivation out of Mr. Harper tonight.
You definitely will, Dave. I'm going a different direction. I'm looking at the total in this one, and I'm looking at the over 8.5 runs here. We talked about it yesterday with the Mets and how all of their games are going over. Yesterday's didn't, but that still puts them at 15-5 to the over. And here's why I'm looking at the over. Zach Wheeler has struggled with his control.
Yes,
his last 3 starts, 15-13 strikeout to walk ratio. You cannot do that in Major League Baseball at this level and get away with it. You put that many guys on base, they're going to end up scoring. And Eflin's not been good either. He's had 20 men on base in his last 10 innings of work. You average 2 base runners an inning. They're going to come around. I think this is going to be one of those high-scoring games in New York. We've seen it with him. And as a road underdog in his career, Eflin is 17-6 to the over.
And we go to the Dodgers-Cubs at Wrigley Field, and Jose Quintana's pitching well for the Cubs right now. He looks like the stud that he was for years with the White Sox, where he, kind of had bad luck in a lot of games, never got run support, and was a better pitcher than his one-loss record would indicate. He's throwing it well right now. Kenta Maeda has been spotty for the Dodgers, but, boy, that Dodger offense is really good. So is the Cubs offense, but the Dodger offense is better. And the Dodger bullpen is better as well. Makes this a very tough game to handicap.
Just like the last game, I'm going to the total in this one, and I'm going to the under. You talk about Quintana, how good he's been pitching. Last 2 starts, 14 innings, no runs allowed. Strikeout to walk ratio, Dave, 18-1. And when you're mowing them down like that at Wrigley, you don't get base runners on. It's good. And here's a little stat for you on the Cubs. Against the National League West opponents, going back to the start of last season, 16-4 when they play at home to the under. I'm going under with the Cubs tonight.
Time for us to bring in Jeff Sherman. We do this every Tuesday about this time. Jeff, of course, part of a great team at Superbook USA, and I'm telling you what, you're just not going to find a shop with more betting options for the players than the Superbook. Hi, Jeff. How are you?
Great. How's it going, guys?
Good. We're definitely going to spend some time on the NHL, and particularly the Knights and Sharks, but I want to start with the NBA and preview tonight's 4 games. We left this off the 4 at 4 because you're really the NBA guru, and we want to get your takes on these games. So let's start off there and look at a bunch of series that could end tonight, but this one won't, and that's the Spurs and Nuggets, which I think going in,